Good morning, everyone. How many times have you set a New Year's resolution only to see it fade away by February? Or started a new habit with excitement, only to find yourself quitting after a few weeks? What if I told you that the reason you haven't succeeded is not because you lack discipline or willpower, but because you simply don't know the right way to build habits that last? Today, I'm going to show you how to develop habits that not only stick but become a permanent part of your life. The kind of habits that transform you from the person you were yesterday into the person you aspire to be tomorrow. And here's the kicker: it's not about trying harder or forcing yourself into compliance. It's about understanding the science, the psychology, and the powerful frameworks behind lasting habits. So if you've ever struggled to make lasting changes, or you're tired of constantly falling off the wagon, stay with me for the next few minutes. Because what you're about to learn will change the way you think about habits, success, and ultimately your life. This isn't just another productivity tip. This is a method to shift your mindset, change your identity, and create lasting transformation. Are you ready to take the first step toward the life you've always dreamed of? Let's dive in. One of the most powerful principles behind developing habits that stick is the concept of small wins. It's easy to get overwhelmed when thinking about big, life-changing goals. We often think that to achieve something significant, we need to make grand efforts right from the start. But here's the truth: small, incremental actions consistently performed are the key to long-term success. Think about it when you want to get fit. You don't start by running a marathon on day one. Instead, you start with a 10-minute walk or a few push-ups. Over time, those small actions add up. A small win, in this case, might seem insignificant at first, but it builds momentum. And momentum, as we know, is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. The beauty of small wins is that they make the process of habit building less daunting. We're conditioned to expect immediate results in a fast-paced world, but real, sustainable change happens in the little things, the things you barely notice as they happen. A small win each day, compounded over time, creates results that are far more powerful than an occasional leap toward a massive goal. This approach has been validated by science. Research on habit formation reveals that the brain is wired to respond positively to repeated small rewards. Every time you complete a small task, your brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in motivation and pleasure. This reinforces the behavior and encourages you to repeat it, leading to the creation of a habit. If we think about it in terms of a marathon, each small step taken along the way provides the fuel and energy to keep moving forward, even when you hit tough moments. Now, here's the kicker: these small wins don't just help you stay on track, they start shifting your mindset. Over time, you begin to see yourself as someone who is capable of success. Instead of thinking of yourself as someone who always fails to meet big goals, you start to identify as someone who accomplishes things one small victory at a time. This shift in identity is essential for sustaining long-term change. By focusing on small wins, you're not just ticking off tasks, you're developing the kind of resilience and confidence that will carry you through the bigger challenges. Each small win reinforces the belief that you can do this and you'll want to keep going. So don't wait for the big moment to feel proud. Celebrate every small step along the way. It's these tiny wins that will ultimately make the greatest impact on your life. By focusing on one small action at a time, you'll see that your goal is within reach, not because you've pushed yourself to extremes, but because you've built a system of consistent, sustainable progress. The second crucial aspect of developing habits that stick is the idea of identity. Far too often when we try to create new habits, we focus primarily on the actions we need to take. We set goals, we plan, and we try to force ourselves to behave in ways that don't always feel natural. But true, lasting change happens when we align our habits with the person we believe ourselves to be, or, more importantly, with the person we want to become. When you try to build a new habit, you're not just trying to do something, you're trying to become someone. And therein lies the secret. If you can shift your self-identity to match the habits you want to build, they will become effortless. For example, if you want to start working out regularly, it's not enough to just schedule your workouts and hope for the best. Instead, you need to see yourself as a healthy person, someone who values fitness, someone who naturally makes time for exercise. When your identity shifts, your habits follow. This concept is grounded in the idea that our behaviors are a reflection of who we think we are. Our actions are driven by our internal beliefs. So if you believe yourself to be someone who never finishes what they start, that belief will affect your actions. Conversely, if you view yourself as someone who follows through and stays committed, you'll act accordingly. This is why changing your identity is often the missing piece in habit development. If you constantly tell yourself, I'm not a morning person, or I can't stick to routines, you are solidifying that identity, making it harder to make lasting changes. On the flip side, adopting a new identity, however small, can give you the momentum you need to make habits stick. If you want to eat healthier, for example, you might start by telling yourself, I am someone who enjoys nourishing food. By shifting the way you think about yourself, your behaviors will naturally follow suit. When you view yourself as the kind of person who prioritizes their health, taking action becomes much less of a struggle. Your behavior becomes aligned with who you are at your core. This is where the power of consistency comes in. When you perform a behavior repeatedly, it not only becomes easier, but your identity begins to solidify around it. You start to believe more strongly that you are the person who exercises regularly, eats healthy, or studies every day. Each time you take action, you reinforce that belief, making it more and more natural to repeat the behavior. Over time, this consistent alignment of action and identity makes the habit part of who you are, not just something you do. This process of identity-based habit formation can be incredibly powerful. It's not about pushing yourself to do something you feel you should do. It's about becoming the type of person who naturally makes those choices. By focusing on who you want to become, rather than just the actions you want to take, you make the habit stick not because you're forcing it, but because it's an expression of your evolving self. Understanding the science of habit formation is a game changer when it comes to creating lasting change in your life. While many of us approach new habits with enthusiasm and determination, without understanding how our brains work, we often find ourselves falling off track. By understanding the neurological processes that underlie habit formation, we can harness the power of our brain to make lasting change much easier. At the core of habit formation is the brain's basal ganglia, which is responsible for storing and retrieving habits. When you first start a new behavior, it requires conscious effort and thought. Your brain is actively processing the action, which takes up significant mental energy. But as you continue to repeat the behavior, your brain begins to automate the action, shifting from conscious effort to unconscious habit. This process is known as habit loop formation, and it's a crucial element in developing habits that stick. The more often you repeat a behavior, the more your brain forms neural pathways that reinforce the action. Over time, what once felt like a forced, deliberate task becomes an automatic response, something you do without even thinking about it. A key part of this process is the role of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a critical role in reward-driven learning. Whenever you engage in a habit, especially one that brings you pleasure or fulfillment, your brain releases dopamine. This chemical acts as a motivator, reinforcing the behavior by making you feel good when you do it. The more your brain associates a behavior with a reward, the stronger the habit becomes. This is why it's important to celebrate even small victories. When building new habits, your brain will register the positive feedback and will be more inclined to repeat the behavior. For example, when you successfully complete a workout, the small release of dopamine can motivate you to do it again the next day. But here's the twist: the brain doesn't just crave pleasure, it also craves predictability. The more predictable and consistent you make your habits, the more your brain will adapt to them. It's not about intensity, it's about regularity. When you repeatedly perform an action in the same context, your brain starts to form an association between the behavior and the environment in which it takes place. So if you set a routine to meditate first thing every morning in the same spot, your brain will begin to associate that location and time with the action of meditating. This is why environmental design is so powerful when it comes to habit formation. The more you can make your environment support the habit, the easier it becomes for your brain to automate the action. Additionally, understanding the process of habit formation also reveals why it's so easy to slip into bad habits. Our brains are wired to create shortcuts, automatic responses to certain triggers. So, if you've developed a habit of checking your phone first thing in the morning, for example, your brain has created a strong neural pathway for that behavior. It's not that you're inherently lazy or undisciplined. It's that your brain is simply following the path of least resistance. The more we understand how our brains create these pathways, the more we can take control of the process and intentionally build habits that support our goals. By working with your brain's natural tendency to form habits, you can create lasting change without relying on sheer willpower or discipline alone. Instead, you make small, consistent efforts that align with the brain's natural wiring, and over time, those efforts transform into powerful habits that stick. One of the most common misconceptions when it comes to building habits is the idea that we need to be perfect in order to succeed. This myth often holds us back, making us feel like failures when we miss a day, slip up, or don't see immediate results. But the truth is, perfectionism is one of the biggest obstacles to developing habits that last. In fact, consistency, not perfection, is the key to building lasting habits. When we're focused on being perfect, we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves, which can lead to burnout, frustration, and ultimately giving up. If we miss a day of working out, for instance, we might tell ourselves, I've already failed, so why bother continuing? This all or nothing mindset can derail even the best of intentions. Instead, it's far more effective to adopt a mindset of progress, not perfection. It's about getting back on track after a misstep, rather than letting one mistake dictate your entire journey. Consistency is what builds momentum. It's the small, repeated actions that lead to significant, lasting results over time. When you focus on showing up, even if it's just a little bit each day, you begin to make steady progress. If you want to build a fitness routine, don't aim for perfection, aim to do something, even if it's just a short walk or a few minutes of stretching. The key is showing up consistently, no matter how small the action. Each time you show up, you're reinforcing the habit. Each time you take action, you're telling your brain, this is important, and your brain rewards you with a little dose of dopamine, which motivates you to repeat the behavior. In fact, being imperfect actually helps you build resilience. Life is unpredictable, and no one can be perfect all the time. If you learn to embrace imperfection, you free yourself from the trap of self-criticism and guilt, both of which often lead to quitting. By being consistent rather than perfect, you allow yourself room to adjust, adapt, and get back on track when life throws you off course. This approach helps you develop mental toughness because you begin to view setbacks as opportunities to learn, not as evidence of failure. Additionally, focusing on consistency helps you stay on course during moments of low motivation. Motivation is fleeting, it comes and goes, but habits, when built with consistency, are immune to the fluctuations of motivation. If you're consistent, even when you don't feel like it, you'll eventually build the habit into your life. It becomes part of your routine. And soon enough, you don't have to rely on motivation at all. You've replaced motivation with momentum, and that's far more reliable. Perfectionism often comes with unrealistic expectations, which can set you up for disappointment. When you shift your focus from perfection to consistency, you set yourself up for success because you're making progress regardless of whether or not everything goes according to plan. Instead of aiming for flawless execution, aim for consistent action, and over time, that consistency will turn into a solid habit that's hard to break. The environment in which we live and work plays a powerful role in shaping our habits. Often we focus so much on our internal willpower that we overlook how much our surroundings can influence our behavior. The truth is, your environment can either support your goals or hinder your progress. To build habits that stick, it's essential to design your environment in a way that encourages positive behaviors and makes it harder to fall into old patterns. Think about how powerful certain environmental cues are. For example, if you want to eat healthier, it helps if your kitchen is stocked with nutritious foods and your counters are free of unhealthy snacks. The presence of tempting foods or the lack of healthier options can trigger automatic behaviors that derail your progress. Similarly, if you want to read more, placing a book on your nightstand or in your bag makes it easier to pick up and read when you have a few free minutes. The environment can either remind you to take positive actions or subtly encourage negative ones. This idea works in reverse as well. If you're trying to break a bad habit, changing your environment can help disrupt the automatic cues that trigger the undesired behavior. For example, if you're trying to cut down on screen time, removing your phone from your bedroom or disabling social media notifications during work hours can create a barrier between you and the temptation. If your environment is free of distractions, it's easier to focus on your goals and stay on track. Another way the environment influences habit formation is through social context. The people you surround yourself with can either support or sabotage your efforts. If you're trying to exercise regularly, but your friends are always inviting you out for drinks or dinners, it can become difficult to stay consistent. On the other hand, if you join a community of like-minded individuals, whether in person or online, your social environment will reinforce your habits. Surrounding yourself with people who share your goals creates accountability, motivation, and a sense of belonging, all of which can help you stay on course. This is why support groups, workout partners, and even online communities can be so effective in reinforcing positive behaviors. Your physical space also plays a significant role in shaping your habits. Simple changes, like making your workspace organized and clutter-free, can improve focus and productivity. On the other hand, a chaotic or distracting environment can lead to procrastination or a lack of focus. You can create a space that promotes your desired habits by strategically placing reminders or triggers in your environment. If you want to write every day, place a notebook on your desk where you can easily see it. If you want to drink more water, keep a water bottle within reach at all times. These subtle environmental cues can help reinforce the behaviors you're trying to cultivate. In a similar vein, making things easy and accessible in your environment is another key factor in habit formation. When something is easy to do, it's more likely you'll follow through. For instance, if you want to meditate every morning, set up a dedicated space with a cushion, blanket, and perhaps calming music ready to go. If the effort required to start a habit feels minimal, you're more likely to succeed. The less friction there is between you and your desired action, the easier it becomes to make that behavior part of your daily routine. The power of the environment to shape habits is undeniable. By intentionally crafting your surroundings, whether it's physical, social, or digital, you create an environment that naturally supports your goals. This makes it easier to form positive habits, break bad ones, and ultimately build the life you want. Accountability and tracking progress are too often overlooked, but incredibly powerful tools when it comes to making habits stick. We all know that motivation can be a fleeting feeling, here today and gone tomorrow. But accountability and regular progress tracking provide a steady force that can keep us on course, even when our motivation dips. These two tools work in tandem, ensuring that we not only follow through on our intentions, but also build momentum over time. Accountability in its simplest form means having someone, whether it's a friend, a coach, or a community, to hold you responsible for your actions. It's the gentle nudge that keeps you from slipping into complacency. When we know that someone is watching, we tend to show up. This is why so many people find success in group workouts, support groups, or working with a mentor. The social pressure to meet expectations can be a powerful motivator. But it's not just about avoiding shame. Accountability also brings an element of encouragement and support. When we know someone is cheering us on or sharing the journey with us, it makes the process of habit formation much more enjoyable. The key to making accountability effective is ensuring it's genuine. It's easy to say, "I'll check in with you once a week." But true accountability happens when you're committed to showing up and doing the work, because you have someone who will ask you the tough questions and celebrate your progress. A real accountability partner isn't there just to congratulate you when you succeed. They're also there to help you get back on track when you falter. The truth is, the person holding you accountable doesn't just serve as an external check, they also help you internalize responsibility and take ownership of your actions. Tracking progress is another essential tool for habit formation. While accountability keeps you on track, tracking progress gives you the feedback you need to stay motivated. When we set goals, it's easy to get discouraged if we don't see immediate results. But when we track our progress, we can see the small steps we've taken and how far we've come, even if the ultimate goal feels distant. Seeing consistent progress, no matter how small, keeps us motivated and reinforces the belief that our efforts are paying off. It's not about achieving perfection, it's about observing growth and improvement over time. The beauty of tracking is that it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need fancy apps or elaborate systems to track your progress. Sometimes a simple checklist or journal is enough. For instance, if you're trying to drink more water, you can mark off each glass of water you drink throughout the day. If you're trying to read more, You can jot down the number of pages you've completed. Over time, these small wins will compound and you'll see how far you've come. This sense of accomplishment provides the psychological boost necessary to keep pushing forward. When you track your progress, it also gives you the opportunity to assess what's working and what isn't. It allows you to make adjustments and tweak your approach, ensuring that you stay on course. For example, if your goal is to work out every day, but you're not seeing results, tracking your progress can help you identify whether you need to change your routine or maybe adjust your expectations. It turns your habit-building journey into a process of continuous learning and improvement. In the long run, accountability and tracking serve as pillars of support that enable you to build habits that actually stick. They create a framework of external and internal motivation, reinforcing your commitment and driving you towards success. By relying on these tools, you ensure that your habits aren't fleeting bursts of effort, but instead sustainable, long-lasting behaviors that become deeply ingrained in your life.